What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today I have a quick overview of the ASRock Z370 Extreme4 motherboard, so stick around for that. So the ASRock Z370 Extreme4 is sitting right here behind me. We're currently installing some drivers and getting that all set up before we start doing some modding to it and getting it into a case. That being said, I have a little bit of a grasp of what's going on with it overall. It supports the 8th generation Intel Core processors and does not support any processors previous to that. So keep that in mind before you purchase it. You're not going to be able to put like a 7700K or a 6700K in here. And that's just a key note because between Z170 and Z270 this was possible. It sports 12 power phases, 10 of those are dedicated to the CPU, and up to 4,333 megahertz memory with, of course, the XMP profiles. And obviously, because Intel does all of the XMP stuff, it's very easy to get these types of speeds working on motherboards that specifically state they support it. It has 3 PCIe 3.0 slots by 16, 3 PCIe 3.0 by 1, and a single M.2 key E. Now it does support, or says it supports, quad SLI and 3-way crossfire, but keep in mind there are only 3 by 16 slots for PCIe. It has a graphics output options of HDMI, DVI-D, and D-Sub on the rear I/O, and 7.1 channel HD audio with the Realtek ALC 1220 audio codec. It supports Purity Sound 4 and DTS Connect, and as far as storage goes, it has 8 SATA 3 ports with 2 Ultra M.2 ports that support both PCIe Gen 3 and SATA 3. Keep in mind though here that the SATA ports do share lanes with the M.2 slots, so you are not going to be able to hook up a total of 10 drives here. Now it does support RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 10, and of course the new Intel Rapid Storage Technology 15. And as far as I/O completely here, you have 2 USB 3.1 Gen 2 slots, one is Type A and one is Type C, and 9 USB 3.1 Gen 1 slots. One of those goes to the front panel, so it's a front panel header, and that works out great for the build we're currently working on because we're going to be building in the Corsair Carbide 500D. That's actually, there you go, right behind me. And if you want to check out the review for that, I'll link it up here in the corner. It has Intel Gigabit LAN, no 10 gig. Dang. And ASRock Rgb LED. That's a ton of features. There are a few things missing off this list that you want to keep in mind, and that's going to be essentially the lack of Wi-Fi. So if you're looking for an AC Wi-Fi, you're going to want to look for a different option. Now there is the Z370 Fatality that supports Wi-Fi or has a Wi-Fi option, so maybe move towards that, or of course go all the way up to the Tai Chi. Now when I'm building, I always like to talk to the person I'm building for and see if they're even going to use Wi-Fi, because we can knock that down, save some money there, and spend it on either aesthetics or upgrading more storage and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the reasoning behind this board. It has almost everything else that I could be looking for the particular build I'm going over. So letting you guys know all the features is the primary objective here. And as far as all of the layout of the board, as opposed to having a USB 3.0 header on the bottom and then one on the side next to the 24 pin, both of them are by the 24 pin, including the front panel for the 3.1 or the Type C. So the layout's a little bit different here. I don't actually mind that because, like I was stating in the review for the particular case we're using, the way they placed the cutout for the power supply shroud actually makes it more advantageous to have it up there by the 24 pin for this particular build. So those are kind of the nuances you want to look at when going over a board like this. Now if you're familiar with ASRock, you're going to feel right at home in the UFI. There's nothing brand new here. You have the easy mode and you can go into advanced mode where you'll get all of your overclocking settings for the CPU. The CPU voltage does support a fixed and offset mode, and then of course you have your XMP profiles. Now it does have internet flash, but you have to have DHCP on your local network or whichever network you're trying to do this over. I used it pretty quickly and it went seamlessly, downloaded and patched it up. Do check for patches because this one specifically had a patch for the CPU for the Meltdown and Spectre vulnerabilities. So to keep yourself protected on that, make sure you pick that up. Now there is the ASRock Rgb software that you can download separately. It's pretty basic, but the UFI also has support for changing the colors and setting color profiles from within the UFI itself, so you don't necessarily have to have that bloatware loaded on to the operating system of your choice on top of already having the ability to control it through the UFI. So that's kind of nice there. As far as power that you're going to need, you're only going to need a single 24 pin and a single 8 pin, so don't really expect to need to get a power supply that supports 2 sets of CPU power or additional power for the CPU. There's no problems or worries there, and there's no additional power needed for the PCIe. So some motherboards, of course, are going to need additional CPU power depending on if it has more power phases and or additional PCIe power. If you're going with quad SLI, for example, some boards do require that. This one in particular does not. It doesn't really have a crazy amount of power phases, but it's going to be good enough to where we should be able to get a decent overclock. The parts we're going to be putting into it is going to be the G.Skill RGB Trident Z, 32 gigs of it, and we're actually doing quad because of aesthetics essentially. And then we are going to be putting the 8700K and a Titan X Pascal, the small P, not the big P, or however that works out, but it's all sitting back here and loaded up, and the Samsung 960 Pro, and that's a 1 terabyte drive, and it already was detected, so everything's already up and running. I can tell you that the board was good out of the box, other than patching it for Meltdown and Spectre. I hope this covers all of the questions you guys have for this particular board. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comment section below, and while you're down there, if you don't mind hitting the like, hitting the bell so you get notified when I upload a video, as well as hitting the subscribe if you for some reason have not yet. Other than that, I will see you next Tuesday.